Hello, my boils and ghouls, and welcome to the Crypt Keep. Wait, that's not our show.
We're a little show called Out of the Ice.
Yeah.
But we happen to be in spooky month.
Spooky. We kind of half started it last episode with the mask because it's a mask, and there's some spooky stuff, but not really scary stuff.
Yeah.
But it's kind of Halloween-y with the color scheme. Mm-hmm. But now we're getting into the thick of it.
Ooh, I'm excited. I think this is. What year did this movie come out?
Like the 30s?
Yeah, this is probably the oldest movie I've ever seen in my life.
Well, you haven't seen it yet.
I'm about to see.
Yes. We've gone back to the old format this time. We think that, going forward, we might try to do this more and more. I think we just had to get more comfortable with podcasting before we went back to it.
And it also helps that we live in the same space now.
Yeah, and I'm getting better at editing. I'm starting to, add interstitials and stuff like that. Technical stuff. But this time, we are talking about Universal's Dracula, part of the Universal movie monster classics. It's Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame is sometimes lumped in there, The Invisible Man, Creature of the Black Lagoon, Bride of Frankenstein, Abbott and Costello. Something sounds different about the ones I just said. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one because, well, as I mentioned, this is probably the oldest movie I'm ever going to see.
As far as I know, this is the first talkie.
Talkie.
And a talkie is how they used to differentiate from silent films.
Oh.
So again, as far as I know, this was the first not silent film.
Okay, we'll have to look into that later.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
But before that, it was all silent stuff, and then, there would be mouths moving, and then it would cut to a card that has the dialogue, and then all that's there is, music that often was just somebody actually playing it.
Yeah. And I'm excited for this one, too, because I remember you mentioned in a previous episode that this is going to be a bit of a trip because there's no actual music.
Well, there's very little music in it. There's some music in the intro.
Okay.
During the opening credits, and then I think there's some music that's diegetic, like it's being played in the scene, but there's no ambient music. There's no background music.
Okay.
Because again, back then, the fact that this was a talking picture, this was a talkie, this was a non-silent film, they didn't feel the need to add music in there at first because they were the fact that this has words synced to it.
Yeah.
Is crazy enough. And the person playing Dracula in this is not the first person to play Dracula. Technically, the first person to play Dracula was in a silent film. In fact, I think there were multiple silent film Draculas. But the one that most people know about is Nosferatu, which I believe is a German film. And Nosferatu means vampire in that language. And essentially, it's the story of Dracula, but they didn't have the rights to Dracula, so they changed the names. So instead of Dracula, it's, I think, Count Orlok. But all of the story beats are Dracula.
Okay.
But yeah, and this one is played by Bela Legosi, who would later become, well known as playing Dracula, as playing multiple parts, and also in being in a lot of Ed Wood films, which was always a fucking trip. Ed Wood was a very odd filmmaker. Here's a way to put it. Tim Burton made a biopic about him. So if that tells you anything. One of his most controversial and yet now most remembered films was a story about a man transitioning into a woman. Mm-hmm. He made a lot of really Z-grade horror films, but yeah, he just kind of did shit. But if you've ever heard of oh man, one of the worst movies ever made, Plan 9 from Outer Space, that's Ed Wood, and Bela Lugosi was in a lot of his movies. But this is probably the seminal role that Lugosi played. This is what he's remembered for. I wonder if it was to his chagrin. Like, I wonder if he was one of those people who's like, I'm not Dracula. I played him a couple times. I'm not. I am a person here.
Typecasting.
Yeah. But, you know, like, I think even in that Plan 9 from Outer Space movie, he turns into a zombie and is suddenly wearing the Dracula cape. But yeah, so...
now, I'm trying to figure out how to approach watching this. Like, again, because it's such an old movie, like, should I watch this with the lens of, I'm trying to watch this for enjoyment? Or am I watching this to be like,
Well, I think the whole point of this podcast is, does it still hold up?
That's true.
You know, like, without, like, because I remember this movie. I watched this movie as a kid. You know, like, this was in the time before Night of the Living Dead Part 2 scared the shit out of me, and I stopped watching horror movies for about 5 years. That and The Idle Hand, weirdly enough, which is a comedy. It's like a stoner horror comedy starring Seth Green. But I don't know why. That one, I think probably because it was one of the goriest movies I'd seen up to that point, that it just really fucked with me. That, and there was a part where, like, the dude woke up to find out that in his sleep, the devil had possessed his hand and murdered his parents.
Oh.
And that terrified me. The fact of just, like, in my sleep, something could take control of me and kill someone.
Oh, no.
So, it's a good thing that little me never watched Friday, not Friday the 13th. I did watch that. Nightmare on Elm Street. That would have fucked me up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think just, you know, go into this like you are, not knowing anything about it except for a little bit of the history that I've shared, and then just be like, all right, does it hold up? And speaking of Dracula, obviously based on a book.
Yes.
Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so that's kind of interesting. The closest adaptation to the book Dracula, I think, is the one made in the 90s. But it's kind of impossible to do a straight adaptation of Dracula, because the whole book is taken, like, it goes through a bunch of different perspectives and has, like, interstitials where it's like news articles and shit about like the world reacting to, you know, Dracula showing up in England.
See, like,
and trying to figure out what the fuck is going on.
That sounds like a really interesting way to write the book.
It is, and because of that, like, I think it still holds up today as like a suspense read, because it kind of, like, it's a horror book, but it reads more like a mystery. But yeah, so I don't know if there's anything else I want to bring up before we start watching it.
Not really anything I can think of, except for I want to read the book now, and I'm mad because none of my high school English classes ever got to read anything cool.
Now we're going to watch Dracula, and you know, Kat's going to enjoy the film, and I'm going to continue to wonder why Universal Studios doesn't use these characters enough.
Oh.
We'll be back.
Later.
I am Dracula.
All right, we're back. We actually ended up having to watch this in 2 different sessions because someone can't keep themselves awake. And it's not me.
Scott doesn't. Scott is just awake always.
Even when I'm asleep, I'm awake.
And I've had a hint of that this past, like, week and a half. It's terrible. Don't do it. I don't recommend it. Look, and so I needed sleep, so I went to sleep. But our sleep schedules are not the point of this episode. We're talking about Dracula.
Yep. So we're back. Hopefully anybody who hadn't watched Dracula has now also watched Dracula, or you skipped ahead and just wanted to hear the deets. I don't know, whichever.
Yeah, but you live your life the way you want to live it, man.
Yeah. So, first things first.
Yes.
Kat.
Yes.
As someone who has never watched this movie before.
Never ever.
And probably has barely even paid attention to the fact that Bela Lugosi's mug shows up every October on Dracula merch.
I have never noticed that in my life.
Mm-hmm. What'd you think? How'd this film hold up?
You know, it was still very, very enjoyable, I thought. The movie, it was a little different in the way of, like, just the lack of, like, your typical music. Mm-hmm. But I thought, like, the plot held up really well. The acting for the most part was not, like, jarringly bad or anything. Yeah, there was some stuff that like happened off screen where it's like, oh, where did that wolf go? Or, somebody getting fucked up off screen.
It definitely it feels like a recording of a stage play. Is how I would describe it.
Yeah, it's
like if you've ever seen a play that they, had cinema style cameras filming and then they just like put that on a DVD. It feels like that. And I think that's probably because that's what they were going off of, because this is like, if not the one of the first talking pictures. So they probably were like, fuck it, let's just make it like a play.
And it was, I don't know, the movie moved very fast, which was a little different for me too. Used to like hour and a half long movies minimum.
Yeah.
But minus like the last like 3 minutes where I was like, wait, what is like that's happening that quickly? I liked it a lot.
Yeah. So I looked at some trivia on IMDb, and I saw one note that said that originally it was planned to be a much higher budget production that more closely followed the novel. So I'm assuming that at some point, after all this was in the Depression era, they probably were like, we can't do that. Like, we don't have the budget for it. So I'm going to guess that that's what a lot of the changes were for. That's what a lot of the pacing was for. Like, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the book that in the movie is only really like addressed by somebody reading a newspaper. Like Lucy going around and eating children like after she's dead, or Van Helsing makes a statement about like, oh, we can save her soul after death, and then that never goes to anything.
I was just
in the movie, but in the book, Van Helsing, John Harker, and the other members of the Dude Squad who aren't in this movie, which were Lucy's suitors in the book, all go and basically like, they confront undead vampire Lucy while she's, draining the blood out of a baby. And Lucy, of course, is like, oh yeah, no, I'm fine. Blood dripping out of mouth. No, I'm fine. I'm not dead. I'm fine. Ooh. And they're like, nope, steak.
Oh.
I think they put a stake through her and then place a cross on her body and then reclose the lid. Is how they fix that. And then there's the point where at the very beginning of the movie, Dracula has 3 wives, and then they just kind of disappear.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. We're I think I even had a note in here at some point, like, okay, so are we gonna talk about where Dracula's thoughts went, or
yeah? In the book. First off, in the book, Mina is a much more active participant going into the later half of the story's events, where she helps Van Helsing piece together everything that's going on by using Harker's diary and newspaper clippings and all this shit. They're the ones who piece it together, from what I remember, because they also cut out completely. Renfield is a person who Dracula enthralls, but also they kind of mixed his story with part of John's in the movie. In the movie, John Harker is the one who gets stuck in Castle Dracula and has to make a daring escape. Literally, he has to fucking jump out of a window into a river.
Damn.
And then Mina basically has to, once he gets back, he has to help him nurse himself back to health, because he's real fucked up. The vampire wives try to eat him at one point, I think, and just a bunch of crazy shit happens. He sees Dracula climbing on a wall, outside of the castle. There's also a thing where, at the beginning of the book, Dracula looks much older, and then essentially every time you see Dracula after he has killed another victim, he looks younger, because as he takes in more living blood, it basically
kind of rejuvenates
him. It regenerates and rejuvenates him. And it is true that he usually just kind of like stays, inside during the day. But in Dracula, the book, that doesn't kill him being in the sunlight.
No.
No, it just weakens his powers.
Okay.
Yeah. It weakens his powers. It basically, he still has hypnotic suggestion, I believe, but it's much more reduced. But yeah, so in the wives, Mina essentially starts realizing that, she's basically half vampire at this point. And she realizes that she can kind of tell where Dracula is. Like, there's some kind of, like, mental link there.
Okay.
And so she goes along with everybody and is like, I hear running water and all this shit, like, all this stuff. Dracula's that way. Like, and eventually she starts turning more. Van Helsing has to do a ritual. Literally, like, puts I think it's like a wafer, like a Christian wafer, and he blesses it and puts it on her forehead, and it like burns, but it like burns a seal into her. And then her and Van Helsing, I believe, are the ones that kill off the wives.
Okay.
Yeah, and then John and the Dude Squad have to fight Dracula. So, but yeah, there's a whole chase across Europe
that we did not get at all.
No, and it's also there's a board game that's literally just all about that part.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Fury of Dracula. So see how it's a whole map of Europe.
Yeah.
And now one Dracula game that I did have, which kind of had a similar thing to it, was you played hunters. And I think some of them were named after characters in the book. And it had this thing where there was a tower that was kind of shaped like Dracula's castle or Carfax Abbey, I forget. But it had different lights on it. You were supposed to play it in the dark. And when it has the orange light, it's daytime. And when it has the blue light, it's nighttime. And certain tiles changed depending on the light.
Ooh.
So, like, a woman could turn into a fucking ghoul or some shit. Oh. And you have to fight it then. And you're trying to get back to Castle Dracula and cut him off before the timer runs out, which is shown by, like, his ship going back to Castle Dracula.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I can't for the life of me remember that game's name, but it was pretty fun, and I almost never see anybody talk about it. So if anybody knows what I'm talking about, please let me know. But yeah, so there's definitely a bunch of other parts of the book that aren't covered here due to adaptation and just trying to condense it to probably help with monetary stuff. But overall, I think, especially for something that was made, in the very early 30s, basically still the 20s, I feel like this is a pretty decent adaptation of Dracula. Like, it gets the Bear Strokes.
Like, again, the movie's 1931, right?
Yep.
So that's like 70. Movie's like 90 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I don't know why that blows my mind, but it does.
It's stuff like that because humans, unfortunately, are very bad at both looking far into the past and far into the future.
Yeah.
Like, anything past 20 years in the past, everybody assumes that we were still banging rocks together. And then anything past 20 years in the future, and it's like, oh, obviously we'll have flying cars and be in space and with aliens. And
despite it being that old, it was still enjoyable. I didn't feel lost or just like, this doesn't just feel like I could watch it from somebody that has lived in this time period and be like, yes, that was an enjoyable movie. That didn't feel that old.
Yeah. And so, okay. So, on to that point, this was a scary movie when it came out.
Yeah.
Like, people were afraid of this. And
yeah, maybe that I would disagree.
Looking back on it, I definitely think it does well with tension.
Yes,
definitely on an objective sense. It is very tense. Like, it does well to, like,
there is some suspense in there.
Yeah, especially because it's really good at not showing you certain things to basically make, like, just knowing that whatever they could do could not go past your own imagination as a viewer. because when there's something where it just implies what's going on, your imagination is always going to, especially when you're in the mindset of wanting to be scared, is always going to make the thing that would scare you the most.
Yeah.
So like when he drags like that flower seller off into the alley and you just hear a scream, like your imagination is going to make something way worse than something they were able to show. Even if ratings weren't a thing yet. So technically, I guess they could have shown anything. I mean, there are literally art films that came out before this, I believe, where it had a special effect where it literally showed a woman's eye being sliced open.
Oh, God.
That was around the time of... No, that might have actually been after Dracula, because it was during the time of Beauty and the Beast by John Cocteau, and that's also a talkie. That is a French film that has spoken words. Isn't a silent film, so that might actually have been after Dracula. But Bela Lugosi as Dracula, what did you think of him?
It was like I liked I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. Dracula, for the most part, outside of he just had this very, and I could almost say the same of Van Helsing later. But both of them just, unless they were actually presented a real threat in front of them, both of them had this very, calm, I got this one in the bag.
Yeah.
And,
they kind of had a sense that they were separated in some way from the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
Van Helsing, now that you have learned what you have learned, it would be well for you to return to your own country.
I prefer to remain and protect those whom you would destroy.
Like they were on a different playing field.
Yeah.
But John Harker, Seward, Mina, they're all level 1s. Whereas Dracula and Van Helsing are Dracula's probably a level 20 and Van Helsing's probably at least a level 10.
A level 10 wizard.
Yeah. Or artificer, perhaps.
Artificer, yeah.
Alchemist.
But I will say, he did a great job at giving that aura of Dracula is not human. He is a monster.
And I kind of forgot this, but he seems to not give any bit of a fuck if people know what he is or not.
Yeah, that startled me.
Yeah, he doesn't outright say it, probably just for convenience sake, because it would make things more difficult for him. But when Van Helsing confronts him, is yo, you're a vampire. Look at the mirror, and he's just fuck you. All right, fine. You found me out. What are you going to do about it?
A moment ago, I stumbled upon a most amazing phenomenon. Something so incredible, I mistrust my own judgment. Look.
Dr. Seward, my humble apology. I dislike mirrors. Van Helsing will explain. For one who has not lived even a single lifetime, you are a wise man, Van Helsing.
Yeah, I was something a big revelation like that. I feel nowadays in a lot of media would just be
Oh, he'd immediately transform
transform
into a Castlevania version of Dracula.
Yeah, a health bar appears
yeah.
Or at least more of a but more of a reaction. But he was just kind of okay.
Yeah, we didn't even get a glass of blood thrown into the ground and what is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. Have at you!
I do need to play some Castlevania at some point.
Castlevania it was good at one time.
I've heard some of the newer ones are not good.
Well, the series is dead.
Oh, yeah.
Because Konami is dead. Kind of.
Yeah.
They just make pachinko now and mobile games.
But yeah, now thinking back, if I was to build a mental image of Dracula reading a book or something, Bela Lugosi's take on it would be pretty dang close to what I think my brain would have made.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said, the slick back hair, just the very
Yeah.
Very clean face.
Yeah, he's got like a sort of like unnerving confidence to him. Like he just knows that more often than not he gets his way.
Yeah, it's like, I'm Dracula, bitch. What are you gonna do?
Like, to the point where he was shocked when Van Helsing resisted his hypnosis. Hypnosis. Yeah, and on that case, I thought Van Helsing was pretty cool too.
Van Helsing was probably my favorite character from the movie.
He's not one-to-one from the book.
Not one for one. What's the book?
The book, he starts out as a much more comedic character.
Okay.
Because he's Dutch, so he like speaks in a broken English and like mispronounces words and stuff like this because it's not his native tongue.
Yeah.
He's clearly smart, but he comes off as a goof because he's just not saying the words.
It was good. Oh, listen to the funny foreigner. Now, and he was a professor in the books as well, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Now, help me.
Possibly a doctor.
I don't know why I thought this, but because again, I don't know shit about Dracula. For some reason, I had it in my brain that Van Helsing was like some sort of like bounty vampire hunter.
A lot of people like to view Van Helsing as that. Okay. When they're doing like spin-offs and stuff.
Okay, so that's kind of like a popular different take on the character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because in the book, it never really gives a definite origin of Dracula.
Okay.
In real life, it's obvious that Dracula is at least somewhat based on Vlad Dracul Tempish, who was a ruler around the area of Romania, where Dracula is often said to be from. And he had a very quirky habit of impaling people on stakes.
What? Oh, just a cute little quirk he does.
Yep. At one point, there were some...
yes, that's a quirk.
I think there were some bishops that came to him, and they didn't remove their hats in his dinner table. And it was like, oh, hey, that's really rude. You should take your hat off. I'm the fucking king. Take your hat off. And it's like, oh, sorry, sir, but we can't. This is part of our holy uniform. And, God goes above you. So it's like, oh, cool. Okay, I see. You can't be separated from your hat. Nail them onto them.
Oh.
Nail the hats onto them. Take them away. Nail the hats onto them. Tunk, tunk, tunk.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, being a prisoner of war and being raped until you're about 20 will do that to a kid.
Oh.
So, anyway. But this version of Dracula, is a vampire. They don't give a definite story of where he comes from in this version. Sometimes he is Judas. Sometimes he's a crusader who lost his wife and decided to forsake God. Sometimes he's a prince that forsaked God, I guess. I don't fucking whatever.
It's a spooky vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Be fearful.
Yeah, whatever it was. And Van Helsing, I liked how, he seemed confident but cautious, but then also sometimes when he got a one-up on Dracula,
he just had
this little smirk.
Yes.
Just like, haha, gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, Van Helsing was really cool.
And you could tell that Dracula kind of had some respect for him, because it's like, oh, for someone who hasn't even lived one single lifetime, again, confirming to Van Helsing that he was right, you're very wise. Oh. And even Renfield, apparently the guy who played Renfield got typecast and was basically only playing crazy people for the rest of his time.
I was gonna say, because his facial expressions as playing it the Madman were phenomenal.
Oh, he was great as a crazy fucker.
Yeah, no wonder he got typecast. He was too good at it. You got it too.
Master, we're here.
But you're also kind of crazy too.
Yeah. Look, I can sell it because I am it. But yeah, I didn't really like John Harker as a character in this one.
He just seems like dumb.
Yeah.
It's like dumb, stupid man that's in love.
And I think that's because they kind of combined every male character that wasn't Seward or Van Helsing into him. Mm-hmm. And one of the people in the book that he reminded me more of than himself was one of Lucy's suitors, who was very brazen, very quick to violence, very, very disbelieving of people in a higher position than him. Very quick to be skeptical, even when it was obvious that he shouldn't be and should just shut up and listen. He was American. I think they literally say he's from Texas.
Because I was gonna say, because he just kind of had this aura. It's like this whole there were points in the movie where he was like, "Don't listen to this nonsense. You're coming with me." Like not even giving Mina a say in it. I'm like, oh, shut the fuck up, dude.
And I feel bad for Mina too, because due to the fact that they had to take so much out of the book, for budgetary reasons, I assume, Mina didn't really get a chance to shine all that much. Yeah, she had one scene where she basically was going full vampire. And, she pulled off some faces that kind of looked like Legosi when staring at his neck and, having to scream at the cross and stuff like that. That was pretty good.
She made it very unsettling, and it worked. It worked.
And like the way that she was able to, portray that she was in a trance, moving basically against her will. Again, very good. Other than that, what were some things that stood out to you?
Trying to think some other stuff that stood out to me. Let's see. Oh, something that really stood out to me. It seemed like the sound effects of the sound effects were almost non-existent throughout the whole movie.
They were very subtle.
Like if some, you would hear something with someone pick up a glass, put it back down.
Yeah.
I noticed it more specifically with scenes with Dracula in it. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, oh, that's
so it could have been at least half intentional.
Yeah.
But
I was wondering about that.
But I would definitely think that Foley artists existed by that point, because radio shows existed by that point.
It's as early as the first 5 minutes of the movie, because I made a note saying when Dracula was coming out of the coffins, and his wives, the coffins made no creaky opening sound or anything.
Sometimes they did, and sometimes they didn't. I noticed later on in the film, when it was just him coming out of the coffin, it seemed to creak very slightly sometimes. And I think when Van Helsing handles Dracula's, when he handles the one that supposedly has Mina in it, there's nothing. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, not.
Yeah, it was it was a little weird. And I think I got used to it pretty quickly, because I didn't really think about it until afterward, and I didn't really think about it until after I made that note. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird, and then I got used to it. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, radio shows had existed by that point. I believe The Shadow, The Green Hornet, Lone Ranger, they were around, and they had to use Foley art. War of the Worlds wouldn't come out until 1938, and that used a shit ton of Foley art, but that definitely did exist. Just maybe they, weren't in the process of doing it a lot to do pickup sounds yet. Because although there is, again, some, when they're on the ship, that has a lot of water sounds and stuff, and that apparently was taken from a former Universal silent film. So that's reused footage. So I doubt that the sounds came from that. They would have been had to added later. It was also very obviously sped up a little bit.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Which also, that's one of the creepiest parts of the book, and I think it's done pretty well for 1930s here, where it's just the people describing what the fuck happened to the ship, where just all of the crew is gone, anyone that's left is just corpses ripped apart, the captain is dead, tied to the freaking mast, and all that's there is Rainfield, laughing against a box. Creepy shit.
Yeah.
He's gone mad. He's absolutely crazy. But yeah, anything else?
Trying to think. Not that I can think off the top of my head, and like pretty much from that point on, like my notes were just kind of like summing up the plot and just like a couple questions specifically to do with I keep forgetting his name, crazy man. Renfield. Specifically, I had a question about Renfield because he became a thrall to Dracula.
Yes.
But like there were some points in the film, like later with scenes with Van Helsing and all that, he seemed kind of almost conflicted to say something, but didn't.
Because he's under Dracula's influence, but he's not fully turned. He's not a vampire yet.
Yeah, he still has some, like, just a small semblance of free will.
He has some remaining morality left through. He's been driven crazy by Dracula and, you know, like, is now compelled to eat blood like his master, even though he's not technically a vampire yet.
Flies? Flies? Poor, puny things. Who wants to eat flies? You do, ya loony. Not when I can get nice fat spiders.
And all this stuff. But he, and I'm sure some of it was probably from self-preservation. It's just like, no, I'll freaking serve you. Don't kill me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think part of it was just like, again, this might have more in it to the book, but for some reason, Renfield felt the need to protect Mina. I don't know if it's because, like, he saw what happened to Lucy and didn't want it to happen again, or because he thought Mina was, you know, like, too pure for that kind of fate. Like, you know, it's just like, ooh, she is too good to be that happened to her. But essentially, he didn't want that to happen to Mina. And sure, yeah, he wanted to stay loyal to Dracula, but also, like, that was the confliction there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, because I thought that was...
He's essentially trying to play both sides.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty compelling, and I was like, oh man, that sucks for him later. But yeah, I think that's really about all I got addressed on that end. Let's talk about the plot.
Yeah. So it starts off with Renfield going to Castle Dracula to discuss the lease of Carfax Abbey, which I believe Carfax Abbey is a real place. Possibly. I might be wrong on that.
I don't got a phone to fact check at that at the moment, but
I have a computer.
You have a computer.
Carfax Abbey. Nope. Looks like I'm wrong. It's just from Dracula. But
all the locals there that he meets up with are like, oh no, you don't,
you
don't
don't
want to
go there. That's a fucking vampire.
That's a bad place.
Which, funny enough, they keep, in that area, they keep calling him Nosferatu. And Van Helsing even calls him Nosferatu sometimes, which is just a foreign word for vampire. But that's also the most known Dracula adaptation before this one. So, just kind of funny in retrospect. But yeah. Then after that, Renfield, you know, goes into Castle Dracula, is freaked out as fuck. Even though Dracula, honestly, had been very nice, drove the coach to get him there himself. Class act. You know, took his bags up, gave him food, gave him a little bit of wine. Sure, it was drugged, but that's fine.
That's not fine.
Look, one negative, but a bunch of positives. Nobody's perfect.
Like the red flags were practically in front of his face.
And he was noticing it. He was very clearly creeped out. But what the fuck was he gonna do?
Leave?
How?
True.
This dude's a fucking immortal killer vampire demon thing. He already had the papers. Like Renfield really wasn't needed anymore. Hell, like Renfield's visit there was even kept a secret. Like, so why Dracula even bothered giving a thrall to him, I don't fucking know. Again, maybe I'm forgetting something from the book where Renfield was more necessary, but you know, then we see his 3 wives, who then later fuck off and don't come back in the movie. Because they didn't have fucking time for that. Which, that does leave something open-ended, though. Like, are they still there? Or did killing Dracula kill them? Because if not, we've still got 3 vampire bitches to deal with.
I mean, because it seemed like later, Mina felt the effects of Dracula's death, so
yeah,
it makes sense that the wives.
But she was also directly under his influence at the time.
Okay.
That could have been her coming out of that.
Okay.
You know, like kind of coming back to her own consciousness. So, huh. But yeah, they're that after that it cuts to the ship, and literally Dracula's just like, oh, well, this is a lot of lovely people to eat or murder, whatever I'm feeling. Yeah, maybe a little bit of both. I'm feeling saucy tonight. And you know what? Maybe I'll be theatrical. Tie the captain up for a goof.
Yeah, they'll love it.
Yeah.
That'll really entertain the masses and the.
It'll entertain the masses to see him strung up to the mast. But yeah, like now that I'm summarizing it does go very quick, because then the rest of the movie basically takes place in the sanitarium. Mm-hmm. Like we have a little, night jaunt of Dracula basically doing his best Jack the Ripper impersonation, and then goes to a little opera. Mm-hmm. Very clearly is like, hey, I'm a vampire. You're not gonna realize that yet, but I am a vampire. It's like, oh, it'll be nice to have Carfax Abbey, look nice. Oh, you're definitely gonna have to be doing renovations. No, I'm not. It's like, oh, there's much worse things than death that can happen to a person. I should know, because I'm a vampire.
He
just doesn't give a fuck.
He's I wouldn't say like he's subtle, but he's also like not that in your face about it.
No, but it is very clear, like when you as the audience member know that he's a vampire, it's like, hello, vampire.
Anyone?
Vampire. 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 Vampire.
Which you said like would match kind of like how the book was doing it too, where like the reader knows a lot more than the characters.
Yeah, and you're just kind of like watching as everything unfolds and people try to figure out what the fuck is going on. But yeah, like I'm sure if you didn't think that vampires were real and didn't know that there was a vampire right in front of you, you'd probably be like, oh, this guy's kind of weird. Like,
he's an eccentric.
Yeah, he must be an introvert. He doesn't get out much. Yeah, maybe he's a YouTuber. They're weird.
I don't know why. I was thinking, I'm just gonna rewind because I just remembered this note now where there was the spider web in the old Castle Dracula, and he's just kind of like breaking through it. I'm like, it's symbolic.
Of what?
Ramsdale's about to just be trapped in Dracula's web.
Well, that's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Dracula even points that out.
Yeah.
A spider making a web for an unaware fly, I think it says. I was more focused on the fact that the spider that we see is clearly just something on a string going.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Also, there was a bee in a coffin, like a bee-sized coffin, where a bee came out in a bee-sized coffin.
What?
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
It's when all the rats are coming out of the coffins and everybody's waking up, and then there's just a fucking bee. The bee coffin.
Okay, I missed that one. I remember the rats, but
and a lot of people are like, is that supposed to be a giant bee? Is it a bee-sized coffin? What the fuck is this? Why are there armadillos here? Like.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about the armadillo.
Well, apparently, due to the trivia, it's because some armadillos were seen digging around in graveyards, and so that led to a misconception that they would dig into graves and feed on the cadavers. But armadillos, as far as I know, also aren't native to Transylvania, so.
Anyway.
Dracula, friend to all animals. So, ooh, that'd be a fun comic. Dracula, friend to all animals. Just goes around like being an animal lover. Children of the night. I love these wolves. They are such good. Bork, bork.
Just animal lover.
Yeah.
Just a sucker for
Count Dracula, veterinarian.
Oh.
You'll need the blood transfusion. Perhaps your human can assist. But yeah, after that, again, mostly it's just the sanitarium. Dracula noms on Lucy. They try to give her blood transfusions to refill her up on nice, nutritious blood, but it doesn't work. She's dead. Comes back as a vampire later. Dracula just kind of abandons her to being a vampire.
She just kind of appeared to be a fodder and then didn't really, at least in the movie. I know you said, like we said before, she had
weirdly in the 90s when there's a scene of her getting raped by Dracula as a werewolf.
What? Well,
I mean, Dracula is a monster.
He is a monster, but
would you really put it past a demon?
No.
There you go. Weird ass take though. Definitely unsettling and shocking. So I guess that works. But it's like it's not even a wolf, it's a fucking werewolf. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I know Dracula can turn into wolves. Werewolves though, that's a different thing. That's a different monster. If he can turn into werewolves, if he's in werewolf form, can a silver bullet kill him? These are the questions I need answered. Much like how Monster Squad in the 80s or 90s answered the age-old question of does the Wolfman have nards? To which, yes, somebody kicks the werewolf in the balls and it crumples to the ground. Wolfman's got nards. It also says that if you blow a fucking werewolf apart with a shotgun, but it's not a silver bullet, it'll just fucking pull itself back together.
That's terrifying.
Oh, yeah. Gotta be silver. Hit that werewolf with a silver spoon.
Whack.
Bunk. Bad dog.
Oh, man.
But yeah.
Yeah, so Lucy, then what was after Lucy?
Lucy dies, and then he basically immediately starts coming after Mina, which Renfield tries to warn them of, but, you know, comic relief orderly is just like, he's stark raving mad, he is.
He's crazy. Don't listen
He's got me going. He's a fucking lunatic. Surprising for a loony bin. Who would have ever thought, working in a crazy house, that I'd be around so many crazies? He's trying to eat the spider. It's clearly a fucking fruit snack, but woo! I actually did like that scene where it's like, Martin, no, don't take my spider, no. Oh, Martin. That was just pretty cool. I don't know why I liked that interaction. His crazy sad just seemed very genuine in its portrayal. Just like, oh, I'm legit upset. I'm like, oh, poor guy. Why you gotta throw his spider away? He was hungry.
I mean, is he?
That's a delicacy somewhere.
Is he really hurting anyone eating spiders?
No.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably not hurting anybody eating rats.
Mm-hmm.
They're vermin. Let them.
I mean, we have cats for.
Yeah, he's just a big old human-sized cat now. That's fine.
Some breeds of dogs.
I mean, some breeds of dogs will eat anything. I once had a dog who literally smacked a bird out of the air because it kept flying back and forth around him trying to annoy him. So he literally just like jumped up and volleyball spiked it with his paw. I was like, holy shit, dude. I can't tell if that was disturbing or badass. I'm going to go with badass. Good job. Don't eat that, though. No, get that out of your mouth. Stop it. No. You don't know where it's been. But, yeah, like, after that, pretty much immediately. It's just them trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. How did Lucy die? What's happening to Mina? Who the fuck is this Dracula guy? And then Van Helsing is like, here, let me answer those 3 questions. She died. Mina's about to die. Dracula's a vampire. All right, cool. We all on board now? Chop, chop. We got a vampire to kill.
And they're like, wait, what?
I said, chop, chop. We have a vampire to kill. Look at this mirror. See how he's not in it? Fucking case solved. All right, I'm in my fucking knife.
Pretty much.
Yeah, Van Helsing don't take no shit.
And that's when I noted, I'm like, I just love how unrattled he is anytime Dracula is in the scene with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the only time where he seems like legit to consider himself in danger is during the, hypnosis scene. But even then, he's just like, you know what? Thought about it? No, I'm not going to be hypnotized by you. No, thank you.
Yeah, I was just like, yo, how the fuck? That's badass.
Nah. He's got the mental locks. He's got them chakras.
The professor.
Yeah, he opened the... Professor! Greetings, Professor. Nothing to report. Oh, well, thank you. No vampires? Oh, reporting that, yes. A little bit of 3 houses for you. But yeah, other than that, then we just, we get the chase to the Abbey. Mm-hmm. Dracula grabs Renfield by the neck and tosses him down the stairs.
Like, goodbye.
Which, I don't know if they had stuntmen back then, but I hope that didn't hurt too bad, because he not only rolled down the stairs multiple times, but then rolled off the stairs into the ground. I hope there was a mat behind that thing.
There had been some cushioning behind there. Because
hopefully.
Especially, I feel like that'd be an easy implement, because you couldn't see his body after he fell.
Yes, and that's why I would think that it would be there too. But also, this was the 30s.
Yeah.
I don't know what safety precautions there were. I don't even know if there were film actors unions.
Yeah, we're in the Abbey, and Dracula just kind of nopes out with Mina.
Yeah, nopes out with Mina. It goes to daybreak, and since this one, he has to sleep in the daytime. He can't just tough it out, I guess. Cat Dracula.
Oh.
And reverse cat.
Whoa.
Can't stay up past 5 a.m. He's just like, all right, I'm going to pass out here. Mina, go hide. If you hear them calling out to you, shut up. Shut the fuck up. Listen, you zip it. I'm asleep. And, so literally,
easy pickings.
Easy pickings. But also Van Helsing, literally just throws open the lid, breaks the lid to make a fucking steak out of his own coffin lid.
Yeah.
Insult to injury right there. And it's just like, find me something to stake this guy with. Something I can really pound this into his heart. And, it's just like a little metal thing. It's just like, all right.
And
Punk.
And this was the moment where when he was getting that prepped,
yeah,
my brain was like, oh, okay, it's not gonna be this easy. Something's gonna happen where Dracula is gonna be like, aha, he'll be weaker probably, but
yeah. And I think that's how it happens in the book. I think they throw open the coffin and he attacks. They they have to fight him, and I think one of them dies from the injuries. Oh. So clearly he fought back. Mm-hmm. That, or maybe he ambushed them beforehand, and there might have been 2 battles with Dracula. Anyway, it's been a while since I've read the book. And by a while, I mean never. I've read the comic version. But the comic version actually...
It was very true.
It was very true to form because it was a long comic, and it used the same thing where it had articles and stuff from it, and switched narrators and shit like that. It was very cool. It's well done. It had a painted watercolor style.
Oh.
And I have one for Frankenstein too. Van Helsing literally is just like, all right, well, time to fucking kill this vampire. Wha-punk, wha-pink, wha-punk, you're dead now. Fuck you.
Oh, Mina, you're okay.
Oh, I guess I am. I mean, I still drank his blood. I've still got vampire blood in me. That's a thing that literally is, they kind of hand wave away in the book, hoping that she's okay, and then
it's It's like, maybe we'll address it, like, you know, to the conclusion of this movie. Oh, there's the end screen. Oh, okay.
The end. Universal picture.
And yeah, when that happened, like, I looked at Scott. He just kind of shrugged at me. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah. They walked into the sunlight. Walking in the sunlight, dancing in the moonlight, having a wonderful time. But
I wish there was.
yeah, in the book, it cuts to, like, I think the anniversary of Dracula's death, where they go to pay their respects to the friend who died, and it's revealed that John and Mina have a kid. And so a lot of people are like, well, the way that blood works, you know, because Mina gets transfusions from the Dude Squad, but I don't think John does it for some reason, possibly, but like Dracula's blood is coursing through her veins. The baby gets blood from the mother through the umbilical cord while it's forming, meaning that baby has Dracula blood in it. That fucking baby's a vampire. It's a vampire baby. It's got fangs. Check its teeth. In fact, I actually think there was a book that came out just recently that I saw at Barnes & Noble that's like, it's that whole premise. Like, just like, oh, fuck, Mina and John's kids are vampires. Fuck. But yeah, so...
Yeah.
And that's kind of the end of the movie.
And I felt robbed. I wanted... And, like, you've been cutting back and forth between, oh, this is what happened in the book, but I'm like, I kind of wanted more. I'd actually be interested in reading the book at some point.
You should. I actually think that, you know how, like,
probably in public domain. Would it be in public domain at this point?
I don't know about that. There might still be an estate, but, you know how Audible is doing that, like, Audible library or whatever, during quarantine, where they have some audiobooks for free that you can do on browser. I think Dracula's on there.
Okay.
I think Dracula's on there. It's mostly kid stories, but like there's also some like classic literature, and I think Dracula's in it.
Yeah, I could probably find it. Would probably be like a free one on Amazon too if I pull that up. As far as like,
but literally, it's
on
fucking everywhere. I wouldn't doubt it if
I can probably read it online somewhere.
Yeah,
there's got to be a PDF of it somewhere.
There's got to be. But yeah, then Dracula from the 90s, that movie is a more faithful adaptation, and it is 2 hours and 8 minutes. So, and even that, it still cuts some shit out of the book.
Huh.
But it also adds, like, it's one of the ones where it's just like, oh, this is Dracula's definitive backstory. No, it's not. He doesn't have one. He's like the Joker. But, yeah, so, again, overall, what did you think of Dracula? Now that you've assessed the plot, you've, you know, kind of gone over it in your head along with me. Would you, to someone who was in your position where you just didn't grow up ever seeing it, like didn't watch it on TV or anything, just completely missed that part of pop culture for Halloween, would you recommend watching it?
Yeah, I think like it would be, you know, again, I was surprised like how well it stood up. Like I just felt like I was just watching an older movie, but nothing like ancient. And I think it'd be a good, just like a fun little quick watch to watch during spooky times with friends.
Yeah. Especially, like, I feel like it'd be good at a get-together where, you know, you're talking with people and maybe, like, riffing the movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a bad movie, but it is...
There's enough tense...
Dead space.
Or you can do a few, like, quips with your pals until the next conversation.
Especially because there's a lot of points where Dracula is on screen, but he's just silent. You know, and I think even while we were watching it,
it's
we
were like, sup, bitch.
I was just like putting words into his mouth, where it's just like, you know, they're all gathered there, and Dracula's suddenly in the room, and they're like, oh, and I just made him go, sup, thoughts? How are you all doing tonight, you dirty bitches? Like, just stupid shit like that.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely a good friend get together kind of movie.
Now, next time, on the podcast. It'll probably be past Halloween, unless we do a special episode. But we haven't decided if we're going to do that or not. So the next scheduled episode would probably be around the 4th.
Okay.
So that's still kind of Halloween-y times. Not quite Christmas times. Right in November.
Still would like to do at least 2 Halloween-y-ish movies.
Exactly. So I feel, why not take that opportunity to watch a very Halloween-y movie, but is a movie that is one of the only perfect Thanksgiving movies, Nightmare Before Christmas.
It's okay. Nightmare Before Christmas is a weird one with me. Like I would be good with watching it because I see like my mom insists like, oh, you loved that movie as a kid. I do not remember that movie. I vaguely remember being kind of scared of Oogie Boogie, and that's really about it.
And you could have gotten that from Kingdom Hearts. Like I honestly, I wonder if she's confusing you with your sister.
Probably.
Like,
my sister got freaked out by a lot of shit. Like she sent me a Snapchat the other day saying like finally getting over a childhood fear, and she sent me a picture of her like watching the beginning of Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, Killer Clowns in Outer Space. That is a weird fucking movie. Like, because there is a lot of like slapstick and stuff like that, but it's surprisingly gory sometimes.
Yeah, like I didn't like that movie as a kid, but it scared the shit out of her.
Clown literally punches a dude's head off.
But
acid whipped cream pies.
But so but yeah, like most Disney media, my first exposure to it was through Kingdom Hearts. So
Oogie Boogie, I think you just need friends. Shut your goddamn mouth, Sora. Now come play dice. Whee!
Dice boss fight. Whoosh.
What was the thing he said a lot? Like, he had a repeated line.
Oh, God, what was it?
It was like, spin the dice or something like that.
Oh, man.
Roll the dice. It was something like that.
Yeah, we would have to look up that boss fight or something, but yeah.
You're joking. I can't believe my eyes.
But I feel like Nightmare Before Christmas would be a good watch for me, because at the very least, like, maybe I remember like bits and scenes of it. But if I actually sit down and watch it as an adult, understanding what a coherent plot is, maybe I'll be like, okay, so this is why people like this movie.
Yeah, and we could do another prop culture episode as a bonus for it.
Oh, that's right.
So also, yeah, I have always thought that Nightmare Before Christmas was the perfect Thanksgiving movie, because at the beginning, Halloween is ending for the year. Everyone immediately starts prepping for Christmas, and nobody gives a fuck about Thanksgiving. It's so symbolic of the real world.
No one cares about the...
All that anybody ever notices of it is that it has a tree. It has a tree with a door. Which I've always been like, what the fuck would be behind that door? What is in Thanksgiving Town? Is it just fucking Plymouth Rock? Just the first Thanksgiving with a bunch of like tension between Native Americans and Pilgrims just kind of having this festival together, being like, well, we're gonna kill each other here in a bit.
Oh. Turkeys.
All right. I think that's it for us, everyone.
All right. And if you haven't already, follow us on Twitter. The podcast Twitter is Out of the Ice Pod 1. You could also follow me and Scott on Twitter. I am some variation of @cat10127. Just look at the Out of the Ice followers. I'm there.
I'm at Mutagen Works, I believe, and sometimes I post art. Just recently, I posted a sneak peek for the thumbnail of our next Let's Play. That's probably already started by the time this episode's come out. It's a point-and-click adventure around the Cthulhu mythos.
So if you can't get enough of spooky Halloween times with...
And it got retweeted by the devs.
Yay!
I'm legit proud of that. They're the only person who's seen it, apparently, but hey, they did.
They're like, hey, they like their thing.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I'll count it. Success.
And also that's our YouTube channel. So if you want to watch us play that,
Kingdom of Geek Along.
Yeah.
Yep. And other than that, we have been Out of the Ice.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Goodbye, everyone.